Hello, friends. Today we are going to cover one of my favorite pairs of boots ever. Obviously, one of the strangest pairs of boots ever. These are made by Yuketen. Yuketen is one of my favorite hand sewn moccasin construction boot companies. Yuki, who's the founder of Yuketen, under the umbrella Megco. He also has Mon Italy or Mon Italy. He's a super inspired, kind of fashion forward designer, but who still is even more obsessed with the quality and craftsmanship of the things that he's making. And that's something I really enjoy. It's fun. It's a great twist. It's a very fashion forward, excitable, inspired, design heavy take on ancient construction of quality clothing. A lot of times the more interesting fashion forward stuff lack quality entirely, and they're made in sweatshops, and this couldn't be farther from it. This is like, he's working in a three-man factory up in Maine, with these old artisanal craftsmen, making these, again, super inspired, really interesting boots. So these are genuine hand sewn moccasin construction. They are just chock full of the leather insole, midsole, counter. And of course, the star of the show here is the actual upper leather. But that's not the only star of the show, and we'll get into it. They're fascinating boots. I love wearing them. They're, again, like kind of my more, I don't know, fashion forward boots, even though they're not cool. It's not like these are hip. But, I like wearing them with a little bit of like Japanese, Americana, streetwear inspired clothing, which is really not that different, but like a nice pair of green slacks and a fun like Imagina Willie t-shirt or whatever. What my point is, like, when I'm putting these on, I'm actually thinking about my outfit. I'm not just like, all right, I need to throw on a pair of boots to go do some yard work, or they're a statement piece, obviously, and I'll actually take a minute and think about how I'm wearing them. Okay, let's get into this actual leather, but before we do that, there's like there's really a few very, very different, amazing pieces of leather on this boot. Okay. We're going to ignore the obvious one for a minute and start with the most subtle, but by far just the most majestic, beautiful leather that I've got on any pair of boots that I own. And that is this collar and backstay. I mean, look at this hand-tooled leather. Look how beautiful that is. And then it's the French collar, or whatever you call that, as well. I mean, it's truly like the beauty and level of design and craftsmanship. Now, this is a very, very hardy piece of leather, but still has kind of these very, very subtle qualities to it. Now, what's interesting is this, you can still see the design on, well, both of them, I guess. Yeah. Amazing. Okay. And then look at the collar. It's just ridiculous. Okay. So we have a hand tooled kind of, what do you call that? Not binding, but a lot of moccasins, like sheepskin moccasins, will have, the sort of seams reinforced by, let's say a Chrome XL or just a hardier leather. So here, this leather is used. Okay. Then we've got the tongue. Now the tongue is a deer skin, just the softest deer skin ever, still relatively thick. Okay. So you have this beautiful sort of traditionally tanned yellowy deer skin tongue, a hand tooled leather reinforcement, backstay and collar, and then, of course, the actual ridiculously hairy rough out. Now, this is an unlined. This is unlined, and so it's actually a rough out. It's called a suede, but it's actually, there we go. It's actually a rough out. I always love the Yuketen made by leather artisans in Maine. Very cool. Another piece of leather, reinforcing in the middle. And then obviously this thick vegetable tanned leather midsole. And then they've got a very, very thin rubber midsole as well, so double midsole. And then these Italian Cortina nitro cork. These were inspired by the Olympics and mountaineering. Outsole. The only other company I've ever seen use these is Oak Street Bootmakers on their moccasins, which I imagine are made in the same little factory. I imagine they're using the Yuketen factory, or they're all, it's just a factory that makes sort of these very, very high-end inspired moccasin boots. There's only so many, or they're they're using the most senior craftsmen at Quadi, and those are the people that are making this line of boots. But Yuketen is just an amazingly inspired, very, very fashion forward, but again, even before that fashion aspect is the craftsmanship. And that's really fun. Like, I'm okay with all the craziest fashion in the world as long as craftsmanship is even more important, or at least just as important. And in this case, that couldn't be, that couldn't be more true. If you follow Yuki on Instagram, I've mentioned this before in my other Yuketen video, but he's just always like posting photos of like the inside of a boot, and oftentimes he's talking about stitching that like I don't even understand. He's talking about ancient styles of boot construction that again are kind of beyond me. They're beyond stitch down or Goodyear welter. It's just like this crazy insole channeling that he's obsessed with. Some of their newer, they've been making these Goodyear welted moccasin style boots that are almost like inspired by like 90s Red Wings, by those super grip Red Wings. And they've been making them in Italy, and they're making them with the most beautiful kind of pinking on the welt, and just really, really, again, amazing attention to detail, really beautiful hides. I reached out to Yuketen when I bought these, and they said that this leather's from Italy. We have seen recently Grand Stone run a pretty similar leather from CF Stead. I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually a suede when this is in fact a rough out, but it is not the most robust rough out. I wear these a lot. I wear these; they feel like summer boots for me. I'll wear them in the fall as well, but I don't wear these in the winter much. But I bet as you can see, I've worn these a lot. There's a bit of wear on there. When I walk through a field, they always gather a little bit of grass, and it just kind of looks. You see, there you go. There's some grass right there, and it sort of becomes part of the nep. It just gets caught. Are these the most robust boots? No, but they kind of remind me of like I've got John Lofgren deerskin engineers, and those are the same thing. They're a very, very fine boot, a very high quality boot, but like if you wear them to work, they'll disintegrate, right? So then you go, is it actually not a high quality boot? It's like, well, it is, but it's just not the most rugged boot. But it's still pretty rugged. It's rugged than most synthetic hiking boots. So it's an interesting place in craftsmanship. There's a delicacy to them, a delicateness. But at the same time, they're built just as tough as any boot, and they're heavy. They have that kind of like high quality feel. There's a steel shank, there's a leather insole, a leather midsole, leather, and again, a leather heel counter. Yeah, I mean, they're so fun. They're just so inspired. They're so strange. They're interesting. They're obviously they're a wild pair of boots. And I get a lot of comments on these. I just love the wax thread of a hand sewn moccasin boot. Just that super thick waxed cotton thread. That's my buddy. You've got all eyelets on these. Now, Yuketen is just known for just their impeccable craftsmanship, their perfect stitching. They're kind of the, what do you call it? I don't know. I don't even want to say they're the Vibergs, because they're just completely handmade, while Vibergs are hand lasted and machine stitched. These are, hand stitched, hand lasted, made truly one at a time. Now, Easy Mock is making some pretty interesting moccasins and pretty inspired moccasins in Maine as well. They might even use the same factory, although I think they have their own little factory. But they don't come close to what Yuketen does. They just don't. And Yuketen is just, again, extremely inspired, extremely interesting. They're very expensive. I like getting them on sale. Are they worth the full price? I would say so, just because of that level of attention to detail, of craftsmanship, of quality. But they are quite expensive. Again, I'm not going to pay full price for them. I just don't have that kind of cash, and I just can't. I can't validate that. But I'll spend $200-300 on them easy, up to $400 really. But they're asking price of $1,000 or $800 for a lot of them. It's a lot of money. So I haven't done that yet. Maybe if I get wealthy, I will. But this is just real quick. This is a best made belt. I wear any kind of belt with this, and in a kind of that right leather scheme. I found that with some lighter boots, a lot of times I'll match the welt and the laces, or the midsole, where that's kind of what this does. It pulls a lot of the quality together. But this is a very, very nice Wickett and Craig veg tan harness leather belt, solid brass, made in the USA by Best Made Co. But yeah, there you go. I mean, these are my favorite pair of boots, and I resisted covering them because they're just so dear to me, and there's almost something almost vulnerable of sharing these. But let's see what's going on inside of here. So that is, yeah, you have this inner piece of leather, or is it the outer? What is going on? Is it like this is the underside, and then this is just made on top? So they're almost made like loafers, and then this top side is sewn on in two places, triple stitched. I think that is my guess of what's going on, but I'm not sure. Just an amazing pair of boots. These are the Maine God Yuketens. I love Yuketen. I've got a bunch of their boots, and I kind of want more. I'm always looking for them. There's a bunch that are first on sale at Mr. Porter right now. Well worth it if you find one in your size. I take my Red Wing size. Again, I don't like talking about sizing because it's so specific. They're usually an E width, so you could take that into account. But I just take my regular Red Wing size. I'm a D and a C in Red Wing, but I take the E. But I take the same size. Yeah, they're extremely comfortable once you break them in. Oh, I forgot to mention this, but just the gorgeous, again, I think that's called pinking when it's got that. And all these things were a lot more extreme when they were new, and at this point, they're just a little bit more subtle. But look at that. Just an amazing boot. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and hope you have a wonderful day.